It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Thursday, November the 9th. Good morning, Neil Young. Crazy Horse. Keep on rocking in the free world. Or as I call that song, oh, hell yeah. It's kind of what makes me think. When it kicks in, I'm like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Neil Young. Give it to me, baby. I'm a fan. What can I tell you? And I love the fact that is a song Neil Young wrote only because he had the title first. His longtime guitarist and Crazy Horse, Pancho Sampredo, a brilliant man in his own light, there was a gig that came to Crazy Horse in the late 80s. They were asked if they wanted to come and play a gig in Russia, some sort of cultural exchange situation. Neil Young and Crazy Horse were going to go to Russia, and Russia was going to send over the Bolshoi Ballet. That was the deal. That was the exchange. I'd say we were coming up short on that one. I mean, listen, I love ballet as much as I don't really care.
Ballerinas.
But the guy who was promoting the deal on the Russian side apparently got some money in advance and disappeared. He was just like a total con artist. And so the gig was canceled. And Pancho, upon hearing the news, looked at Neil and said, well, I guess we'll just have to keep on rocking in the free world then. And like as a joke. And of course, Neil went, hey, do you mind if I write that? Because right away he's like, that's a song title. So anyway, sometimes you never know where a song comes from. In that case, well, that's kind of where it came from. So there you have it.
I'm sure he gave him writing credit.
Oh, God, no. No. That's not how that works.
No, I know.
Are you kidding?
Right.
What do you think this is? The Robbie Roberts? Oh, no, he didn't either. Okay, never mind. Sorry, Levon. All that stuff you told me about the Civil War. No, I wrote that song.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. It's tough. You get into a band, you think, hey, we're going to be a team. We're going to all go do this together. It looks great from the outside. A lot of people get in bands and realize it's not so great once you get there, which is not unlike just about every job I've ever had. I've had a bunch of jobs that I really, really wanted, and then I got the job, and then after a while, I'm like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
This one?
This one? No, well, no. But here's the thing. Because, see, like when I complain to anyone about waking up at a god-awful early hour, they go, wait, hold on. You're finished with your show at what time? 9:40. You're off the air at 9:45? Right. And then I have to shut up and go, oh, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Right. Just as they're just, grinding in, leaning into their job. Yep. We're on the couch taking a nap.
There's always an element of suckiness, whatever job you have.
I think the more you think it's an awesome job, the more the suckiness hurts. It might not last forever, but when you finally admit to yourself, oh, it's not all that I imagined. I used to go to a record store in Atlanta called Wax and Facts in the late 80s, and I would walk in there and be like, if I could just work here. If I could work here, I think everything would make sense.
Yeah.
And then I got the job. And about 2 months in, I was like, why do I have to be here at noon? I cannot be expected to show up at 11:55 before we open the door. Yeah, it's just what happens.
I'll tell you, I got blown out from KQ in 2017. And so I thought, well, here I've been doing radio for, I don't know, almost 30 years at that point. There's got to be something else out there in life. And they tell you, find what you're passionate about and do that for a living.
Okay.
And I would say that's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. And let me tell you why. My passion is skiing. I love to ski.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, so I started looking around in the ski industry. That's the quickest way not to ski, working in the ski industry.
Sure.
While everyone else is skiing, you're working. Of course, now there is the ski patrol. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'll go up to Leadville, Colorado and go through ski patrol training and be an outdoor ski patrol. But it turns out that those guys work about 20 hours a day. And you do a lot of skiing, but the work is just grinding. So I would say, just do not do what you're passionate about. It will kill your passion for it if you like to do it recreationally. Just fine. Here's the trick. The least amount of work for the most amount of money.
Oh, well, that's pretty good.
Radio for me.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't have a college degree, I was pretty limited.
There's a guy named Scott Galloway. He's a professor at NYU, and he has a couple of podcasts. And you see him on Bill Maher a good bit. Real smart dude. And he can break down economic or political upheaval in a way that you can digest and understand. He has a podcast called Pivot that I really, really enjoy. He and a tech reporter named Kara Swisher. Anyway, he has this whole theory, and he's a very successful investor and business guy, blah, 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 blah. And he says, essentially, don't do what you love what you do. He goes, I think there's a great separation between your genuine, honest-to-God passions and what you're good at. And if you discover that, that's fine. Because to your point, Zepp, if you pursue what you love as a career, you will stop loving it. And you will then wander in the wilderness of, well, then who am I? If that's me, you know. And he said, if you're really good at something, but it doesn't make you feel great, well then, no, put everything you have into that, do the best you can so that the rest of your life can be awesome. You know, it's like keep a separation of church and state in a sense. It's like if you find a job doing what you already love and you're happy, that's great. But don't assume that's going to happen. It's more of those. It's not. It's an assumption. I mean, I wanted to do one thing my whole life, and that's play drums in a band. And then I did that, and it was fantastic. The being in a band part, I got way more than I bargained for because I just assumed if we did well, everybody would be in a good mood. My bad. Oops. That was a weird thing to think.
Naive little deer.
Just thought, well, what could we have a problem with?
Right.
And
tricky.
it was, that's how it was. But basically, but I still love to play drums. But I will admit, there was a while when it's the last thing I wanted to do. It just had so many peripheral addendums of just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. My syndicated show that's on at night, Steve Gorman Rocks, I was complaining about some element of it. And again, this is just like 3 years ago. My buddy goes, hang on a second. You talk about rock music? I go, yeah. He goes, you listen to rock music and talk about it? I go, yeah. He goes, you're just being you. You have a job to just be you. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to shut up now. Yeah.
That's the old Steve Martin line when he would go, I get paid for doing this.
That's exactly right. That's fantastic.
Well, there are those jobs that, I mean, I think when you're younger, you fantasize about, and when you get older, you realize, oh, it's just a job. You know, working at an amusement park. Here for me, and I know it's a big deal here in Minnesota, but when I started telling my friends here when I moved to Minnesota decades ago that when I was in college, I was a Zamboni driver, they're like, are you kidding me? That's all I ever wanted to be for my entire life, a Zamboni driver. It elevated my status immediately.
Sure it did.
Within my friends.
I like you better right now already.
Right? But here's what being a Zamboni driver is. Mowing the grass. If you like mowing the grass, if that's your lifelong dream is to get out and mow the grass, you'll love being a Zamboni driver. Usually you have to get up at really early because those little, what do they call them? I can't remember. Mites.
Ice rinks?
That's right. No, not ice rinks, mites. Those little mites that come out and play hockey before all the big kids get out there.
Yeah.
They show up at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
The ice has to be ready for the mites. So you're rolling in there at about 5 bells in the morning. And you flip a couple of levers, you clean up the ice. It's not very sexy.
Hey, man, I can tell you this. I never dreamed about being a Zamboni driver, but I always did want to ride on one. And my first month in town, Candace and I went out to a wild game, and it was against the Nashville Predators, and we rode the pregame Zamboni, and it was awful. I hated it.
It was amazing.
You had a great time. I was in a chair that was a little too small. It was leaning forward. I was strapped in because if not for the seatbelt, I would have face planted on the ice. And I'm riding sideways, and I'm just sitting there looking up in the stands going, I've never felt more vulnerable and like I've never been I'm a bit of a dork at times, just physically. I mean, I'm not the smoothest cat in the world. That was the worst I've ever felt.
I loved watching you ride the Zamboni.
Yeah, we barely knew each other, and I was like, boy, she's laughing really hard at me. We're just still kind of establishing the parameters of this relationship. Wow, she's just going for it. There's a guy who shows up in my Facebook feed, and he runs the dream that I've heard so many people say this. If I could do anything, I would just buy a farm and rescue dogs and have them all living with me.
Maria.
And there's a guy, my wife, there's a guy who does that, and he lives in Oregon, and he's got a big Facebook profile. And of course, the problem is you click on one video, and now I see him all the time. And this is exactly what he does. And he's just got dozens of dogs, and he knows all their names, and his whole life is spent finding dogs that need rescuing, and he takes them home, and he rehabs them, and then they're part of his pack. And I watch 1 3-minute video, and I'm like, that just sounds like hell on earth to me.
Right.
I like one,
intensive.
maybe 2 dogs at a time. 50 dogs. And how do you get anything? You never get sleep. You got to work. I mean, you know how much food that is?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm like, dude, come on, man. Good idea. But on paper, it sounds amazing. But in reality, no thanks.
That's why I won't have one dog. For crying, I wonder what it's like every morning. You'd think being a Hollywood reporter would be easy, right? You get up and you just read the sleaze. But that's kind of, I think it's like being a cop a little bit. just a little bit in that you're always in the weird news. Like, are Reese Witherspoon and Kevin Costner hitting that? We'll find out here at 6:30 with Mike Evans' Hollywood Report. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. The KQ Morning Show is back, for crying out loud. And I'll tell you something else that's back. Mike Evans, he's back as per usual with the Hollywood Report. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. This report brought to you by Marcus Theaters. I'll have some movie reviews tomorrow. The only place to see movies in Minnesota, the entire state, is Marcus Theaters.
Nice.
Well, you know what? I told you on Monday, kind of quietly, just kind of dropped it, that there was some kind of super secret SAG-AFTRA studio meeting that wasn't publicized on Sunday night. I said, I think this thing could end before the end of the week. Mm-hmm. It's over.
Nice.
The strike is over.
Hurrah!
Oh, I mean, it's great. Getting back to work is fabulous.
Joy to the world, Michael.
I know. A lot of people need to get back to work and need the money, and it's just great. It's just great.
Yeah.
So I got my calculator out. Stay with me on this. I think I'm right. Al Pacino thinks that $30,000 a month that he's paying his baby mama in child support, he thinks it's a little high.
Right.
I got to thinking about it. Let's see. $30,000 a month. Al Pacino is worth $120 million. So I got the calculator out.
Right.
I think I'm right. If you divide $30,000 a month into $120 million that he's worth, it would take 4,000 months or 300 years to go through the $120 million.
Okay, but you know, Mike, come on, $30,000 to a billionaire is it's still $30,000. I mean, you know, it's a lot of money, and that money, you know, he's looking at it like I could put this money in charity. Hoo-ha! I could do a lot of things with it.
And also, he's only going to have to pay it for 21 years, not 300 years. So I don't know.
21, not 18.
No, 21. I think is this. The deal with this thing.
Free Al. That's what I say. Free Al.
Yeah.
TV news, really, really great new series that dropped this week on Paramount Plus. I really recommend it. It's Lawless, Bass Reeves. Have you heard about it?
No.
Oh, my goodness, it's fabulous.
Lawless Bass Reeves?
Lawless Bass Reeves. It's about a slave, Lawless Bass Reeves, who became free under very strange circumstances, and how his life changed the lives of so many other people. Just a great man, and here's a hook. I didn't even know. It's a true story. They say this was one of the great heroes back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It stars David Oyelowo, who, of course, played Martin Luther King in Selma. Lawless Bass Reeves, playing now, Paramount Plus. Only 2 episodes, Monday and Wednesday they've dropped. Check it out. It is really, really good.
Cool.
Also coming to Paramount Plus, an incredible documentary that I think will shock you, JFK, what the doctors saw. Well, all these years later, conversations with the doctors and going through reports, what the doctors who did the autopsy on JFK, what they saw, their reports. And, Steve, what a shock. The conflicting reports suggest, well, what most of us believe, you can't really trust the government.
Yeah, Mike, check this out. I was a history minor in college. My history advisor, my favorite professor I ever had, he grew up in Dallas. His best friend for life was the surgeon on call at Parkland Hospital when they brought JFK in. He's the guy who literally held the president's head in his hands and did not speak publicly until shortly before his death. And he told my professor for years, this is in the mid-'80s, I was told this story. And my professor said, oh, no, multiple gunmen. He said he's a hunter. He's been with guns his whole life. He said that was a whole different story. And then he kept that quiet. And shortly before his death, the surgeon shared those views publicly.
JFK, what the doctor saw, and you heard it from Steve. He's heard the inside story. Paramount Plus, November 17th, 4 stars. Check it out.
Okay.
A little sports nuggets for you. You know, a lot of sports celebrities and athletes are doing their own podcasts. Mookie Betts and Von Miller and Travis and Jason Kelsey and the Paytons. But I hear a whole bunch more are going to be doing podcasts in the beginning of the new year. What do you think they'll be successful? I think they're interesting.
It's like anything. It's like anybody from any realm. You're either interesting or you're not. I mean, and it's not even a question of what you have to say. It's like movie stars, politicians, musicians. It's more about how they make you feel than what they say, almost always at the end of the day. And certain athletes have the ability to make people feel a lot of things, good and bad. And some people are just as dry as dishwater. So it just depends on what you got in the old central nervous system, I think.
Yeah, I being a sports nut like you, I'll check them out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
I'm all for athletes speaking their mind about everything because they're citizens first, I would hope. So I'm totally down with people getting out there and saying what they think.
I agree. So we talked about the popularity of the NFL football, and I did a little digging yesterday. I mean, we've sort of forgotten this Taylor Swift's popularity and dating Kelsey and all that. But I checked this out. When Taylor was promoted, would be in the owner's box watching her boyfriend, Travis Kelsey, on the October 1st game. Mm-hmm. I looked into it. That game did 27 million TV viewers.
Right.
I did a little more digging. That was up 22% from last year's Week 4 game that matched up the same two teams on the same network at the same time.
Right. No,
22, I don't get it. 22% more people watch because of her?
Yes. I can't believe you're surprised by this. She's the biggest star on the planet.
Oh, wow. I mean,
listen, there's no business on the planet that wouldn't embrace her the way the NFL has. Every other sports league would. Coca-Cola would.
Yeah.
Dow Chemical would. I mean, everyone. I mean, football fans are freaking out. But from a business perspective, makes all the sense in the planet. If I could get Taylor Swift to show up in my Instagram feed, I'd do it every damn day. And I don't even care about Instagram.
I hear you. It's an amazing stat. But understandable. And another stupid sign for you today. We're doing one every day this week. This one, Steve, comes from a radio station, 91X in San Diego. Next to the copying machine in the sales department at 91X, the sign read, "Please do not put heavy items on the copying machine, and thank you for your copulation."
Well, boy.
Yeah,
thank you for your copulation.
Wow.
Sure.
Pleases me.
Nice.
So they just want thin people to copulate on the machine.
Wow. 91X. Hey, have a great day. Movie reviews tomorrow and some surprises. The strike is over. I'm going to go celebrate. Talk to you tomorrow. See you.
Cheers, Mike Evans. There you have
that
it.
Celebration looks like celebrating that the strike is over. Shots, strip club.
I'm not
Big
really sure.
Doob, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure on that one. We were talking a little earlier in the show about jobs you have, and you get there and you realize it's not all that great. And we will continue on that throughout the show a little bit. But I was thinking about this one, which I've never done, and I, like many people, I'm sure we've all thought about it. But being a bartender.
Yeah,
I went to bartender training one summer.
Did you really?
I had nothing to do, and I thought, if I ever needed, some extra work, I could pick up on that.
Right.
And it's not far from here, down on University Avenue. I believe it's still open, and it's cool. You sit in this simulated bar,
right,
and you learn how to mix drinks.
Do they send in drunk people to hit on you?
Yes, and tell you their problems.
Oh, God, I picked up some shifts just to get some holiday kizzash. I'm going to do work at Acme for a little bit, and I'm scared. I haven't served since 2018. I feel like people are meaner and drunker now.
Plates are different now.
Are they meaner and drunker?
We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I might suck at it.
Well, I tell you what
Acme with a big chip on your shoulder.
Look, Candace, I'm a lot of things. First and foremost, I'm a scientist, a social scientist. So why don't we do this? Let's set up an experiment where we advertise your shift times, and then we see what happens.
Okay. I'm sure I won't get kidnapped that way.
Well, let's just find out. We'll give you an extra cell phone. You'll be fine.
Invite the biggest psychos to come down.
Right.
Anyone who can go down and break Candace's spirit at Acme Comedy Club at the bar.
You get to be on the morning.
Yeah.
That person gets to be on the show the next day. So how'd you do it? How'd you wear her down?
Well,
what was your
whatever's
approach?
good for the business, I suppose.
How else are you going to learn?
Team player. There's no Candace in team. Oh, no, there's a huge Candace. Wait, there's no I in what? Never mind. Let's look back. How about a history lesson?
Did you know this?
Hey, did you know this?
Okay, this is interesting.
This is interesting. What is it?
Sports history.
All right, it is November the 9th, and on this day in, check this out, 1861, as in when the war between the states was happening, or as they say down south, the War of Northern Aggression. When that was going down, 1861, the first documented Canadian football game took place at the University of Toronto. I don't know who they played. I don't know the score. I don't care. All I know is that the offensive players were moving before the snap. The field was too long. It was too wide. The end zones were too long, and they didn't give the offense enough chances to get a first down. But, yeah, I'm sure other than that, it was great. Canadian football is like chewing foil. I can't stand to watch it. All the motion before the snap, it literally it makes my central nervous system flare up like red flag, red flag, red flag. Stop.
Yeah, it makes you tense.
And I didn't even. And by the way,
watched a game.
I didn't even play football, and it does that to me. I can't imagine if I'd played the game of football. When you see everybody moving before the snap, it just sets me off. I'm sorry, Zeb, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know exactly how you feel. I played football at the collegiate level, and that's exactly how I feel when I watch basketball.
What the?
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Misty Mountain Hop from Led Zeppelin 4, the song that asks the musical question, what do you think I saw? I used to be able to get up higher. Man, my voice is going.
That's pretty damn high, man. I'm sure Chauncey opened an eye.
No, literally sound asleep.
Right, you broke some glass.
Man. Boy, I love me some Misty Mountain Hop. That's a great example of John Bonham, who played technically brilliantly, but also played like a kid who just got a drum kit that day. Just so fun listening to those fills. And here's something interesting. Led Zeppelin 4, the album from which that very song is plucked, was released yesterday in 1971 on November 8th. It has sold, 40 million copies around the world. It's one of the most iconic records in rock history. And one of the very many mysteries around Led Zeppelin 4 is the album cover. You can picture it if you hear me saying this. An older guy in a brown suit with a walking stick hunched over with just a giant collection of sticks and branches on his back.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you. What the hell is that? Well, now an academic in Wiltshire in England has found out actually that's a real person and who he was. His name, the man in question, is a Thatcher from Wiltshire whose name was Lot, L-O-T, Lot Long. He was born in Wiltshire in 1823. He died in 1893. I bet his teeth hurt. This photograph was taken in the late Victorian era. So this guy came across the original image while curating an exhibition at the Wiltshire Museum. This dude's a giant Led Zeppelin fan, as a side note. And he's just going through thousands of images, and he comes across this photograph, and he's like, oh, my God, that's the Led Zeppelin 4 guy. And he said, as they created the soundtrack that's accompanied me since my teenage years, I really hope this entertains the guys in the band. Robert Plant was believed to have purchased a copy of the photograph from an antique shop near Jimmy Page's house. That was always the story. He just thought it was cool, bought the photo. Back then, they didn't do any research. Like, well, before we put it on the cover of what will be one of the biggest albums of all time, we should figure out who that is and who took the picture. They just used it. Who was going to get in their way? But the guy, listen to this, Lot Long was a widower at the time the photograph was taken. He lived in a small cottage on Shaftesbury Road in a town called Mere in Wiltshire. Little did he know that less than a century after his death, he would be on the cover of an album. And, of course, he didn't know what an album was. He didn't know what rock and roll music was. He probably never heard a live guitar. Things happen. But anyway, in case you're wondering, anybody that looks at you and says, who's on the cover of Led Zeppelin 4? Now you can say a guy named Lot Year. Go ahead.
Lot Long.
Lot Long, whatever. Lot Long, Lot Year, Lot Long. Thank you. I don't know where year came from.
Yeah, I was trying to memorize it so I could use it, and have people just stare at me blankly. What now? That guy on Led Zeppelin 4, that's Lot Long.
Lot Long.
Oh.
Hard-working man, too. Imagine being a Thatcher.
Man. If I were still touring at a time when you needed hotel aliases, I'd be Lot Long. Trust me, I'd go right to it.
You know what Steve Martin's name is that he gives when he checks into a hotel?
What's that?
Gern Blandstead.
Oh wait, like yeah, and I read, was that in his autobiography? I've read that somewhere.
Seems to me you'd be creating work for yourself. How do you spell that every time? I like Lot Long because there's one way to spell it.
That's true.
Is that with one T or two T's or whatever?
That's That was
Suppose
always
Lot ever stood up straight, or when they took that big patch of thatch off his back, if he just, that was it right there.
No, he was actually born with a curved spine, which made him perfect for Thatcher work.
You made that up.
He was recruited.
So, I'm looking in the notes to see if that's possible. It's funny now that I mentioned that, when I look back on as we would be preparing for a tour, you'd have these band conference calls. Okay, we're going out. We're going to be out all year. Blah blah. Here's some. Well, let's talk about the budget. Let's talk about the production. Let's talk about this. And it would always devolve into, what's your hotel name going to be? Like, we would go right to that. That was the most fun part, picking the right hotel name. My first ever hotel alias is that I chose the name for which this beautiful dog next to me was named after, Chauncey Gardner. That was my first hotel alias.
Right. It's a nice one.
Yeah, that was a nice one. My favorite of all time, though, of course, was Oliver Sudden.
Oh.
Say it.
Oliver Sudden.
Oliver Sudden. That was good. Pat McGroin was a good one. And then, go ahead, bud.
I was just going to say, if I'm a groupie,
Right.
I'm going to the hotel register and just looking for the goofiest names. Oh, that's got to be them. I'll go bang on those doors.
If they'll show you the registry, yeah, that's true. Our piano player, Ed Harsh, had the best one ever. And it was the simplest. It was simply Ed McMuffin. Oh, you know what he did one time? This is also funny. In like 1995, his hotel name was Steve Gorman.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
And he goes, I just want to see if anyone's actually going to call. And people would call. And he would tell me, every couple of days, he'd go like, man, I talked to someone today. And I kept saying, Ed, change your name. He goes, no, this is kind of funny. I just want to hear. And then after a while, he goes, man, you got a lot of friends from college that you haven't kept in touch with.
Oh, funny.
Because every few days, somebody would call like, hey, Steve, hey, it's so-and-so. And he'd be like, no, this ain't Steve. I mean, it's Steve, but it's not Steve. He just lived for those sort of awkward moments. That was pretty good.
By the way, Rosemary wants you to pick up some bread and milk on the way home when you get back from tour.
Yeah, pretty much. She hated calling hotels and having to ask for these weird names. She would be like, just be John Smith, and then so just to torture her. Once I was Pudding. My first name was Pudding, and the last name was Forpar. Hi, I'm calling for Mr. Pudding Forpar. Oh, she hated that. It's life on the road back in the day before cell phones ruined everything. When's the last time you picked up a phone in your hotel room? I mean, it never even occurs to me.
I don't know. Yeah, room service occasionally.
I guess,
if I've got to go there, or if
I tried
I
the
brought
other
the
day.
blacklight along.
You
Last
tried the
weekend,
other day?
I tried to pick up the phone and call the front desk and ask a question, and it didn't work.
No, see, that's what happens. Oh,
Push
by
the
the
wrong
way,
button.
I saw a thing once a few years ago, and it said the number of hotel room phones that don't work, and because no one ever uses them, so they never go reported. Like, that phone might not have been working for 3 years, and there's a chance that nobody tried it.
Well, I needed to ask a serious question.
Do you want to share that question with us?
I was just going to ask how I could get some food.
Oh, okay.
How's it work?
Hi, it's Candace. Do you have food?
Can you make me a Sam sandwich?
If I don't open the door, bring it in anyway and wake me up and give me the food?
I have caramel corn.
I have. By the way, many times on the road, this back in the day, I would wake up in the morning and just like really bad hangover and look over and there's a room service tray untouched because I'd passed out before.
Yeah.
Call the room service, pass out, and then the guy they'd bring it in, and I'm like, somewhere out there's probably photos of me sleeping fully clothed, my head over the edge of the bed,
Yeah.
Man, they were nice enough to just quietly bring it in. They could have been playing a trumpet. I wouldn't have heard it.
That's hilarious.
I
And
always
then
seem to
just
get
leave
one
that
boot
big
off.
tray of food. Oh.
Yeah, right. Been there.
That's that Metallica song, Sleep with One Boot Open. That's how that goes. I do remember that. We were talking about jobs you get, and then you realize pretty quickly into it that's not all that great. We've got a lot of Facebook comments. Tony, are there any text messages from listeners?
Yeah, I got a couple fun ones. This one says, I thought working in ultrasound would be fun, pushing buttons like a video game. Nope, extremely difficult degree, as challenging as nursing school. Not fun and easy.
Oh, man.
Nope. And Jerry from Shakopee, I saw a guy in a movie driving a forklift who was a hit with the ladies and had all these adventures. In reality, I come home and I can barely move and I just want to eat and go to sleep.
How about Trevor on the KQ Facebook post? Being a pilot. Just kidding. It's awesome. That's what he wrote.
That's pretty good.
You son of a.
Well, Zepp, you can speak to this one. Kyle on the Facebook page. The question, of course, what's a job that seems fun and easy but actually isn't? He wrote farmer.
Yeah,
whoever thought that looked easy?
I remember, of course, we moved from Pennsylvania when I was 5 years old, and we were in a trailer park. Mom meets Dad, the Brady Bunch, our little version of it. We're out in the middle of South Dakota, but Dad asked us, he said, how would you boys like to be cowboys? How would any 5-year-old kid answer that? But it turns out we weren't cowboys. He lied to us. We were dirt farmers, and there's a big difference from putting on a cowboy hat and riding a horse out into a romantic sunset and, shoveling shat, as they say.
Wow, that's I'm just going to imagine your mom as Zsa Zsa Gabor from this moment forward.
She would like that.
She would like that, of course. Zsa Zsa Gabor, when she would smoke, she always had those long filters, the thing you added to the cigarette.
The cigarette holder.
Yeah. Cigarette holder, not filter, the holder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always, when I was a kid, I used to think like it's amazing now. We live in a world now where the world's like there's so many billionaires and people just they just flex wealth and yachts and all that. But like when we were kids, like the idea of a millionaire was what you now think of as a billionaire. And I used to think about things that I thought you had all the money in the world if you had a cigarette holder. Like that that was just rich people.
And after meals, she wouldn't do the dishes. She just threw them out the window.
Exactly.
Oh, my mom did the dishes.
Yeah, she's
hi.
Oh, I love this one on the KQ Facebook page. Vincent Pagliano.
Okay.
Now, the name is important here. Vincent Pagliano. Circus clown. Been there, done that.
What?
Wow.
It could be a fake. We could be, so it could be someone trolling us. Vincent, I don't know you out there, but I hope it's true.
In an era when just the appearance of a clown can be traumatizing.
Oh.
There was a story. There was a clown prank on Halloween.
Yeah.
A homeowner, somebody entered a home as a clown with their job. They did it to scare a group of teenagers, and it worked. They called 911.
Yeah, let's do this real quick. We've got a little time since you brought it up. In Wisconsin, by the way. I don't know exactly where in Wisconsin, but a little Halloween clown prank. They didn't realize that one of the young ladies sleeping over had a phone called 911.
There's a clown inside, like an actual clown inside the house right now.
Do you know who it is?
No.
Or is there anybody else inside with him?
My friend's parents.
Okay.
No. Just get here as fast as you can, please.
We're okay. We're just playing a joke. Sorry they called you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they called 911.
Well, I didn't know my daughter had a friend on the phone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he didn't know. Wow. You didn't know your friend's daughter had a phone. 2023, Dad.
Yeah.
Come on.
By the way, think about people who in the old days who just it was a real craft. It was a labor of love. It was a real entertainment. I mean, like clowns work hard, and we have gotten to the point where just the appearance of a clown is literally like I'm clearly about to die. Right. I have to call 911. If a clown walks into your house on Halloween and your response is to call 911, the clowning industry needs a reboot. That's what I'm saying.
I think you're probably right. Of course, we'll be talking Vikings. Everybody very excited to be talking about Vikings again this week. And Justin Jefferson practiced. We'll get into that with Sam Ekstrom at 8:30. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but didn't Sam last week predict a safety in that game?
I believe he did.
Very
something to think about. All right, we've got to get to this U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. We appreciate your patience. Strange objects that have gotten stuck in people's bodies. It's an official list, and we'll have that for you at 7:30. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show, Thursday, November the 9th. In an hour, we're going to talk with Sam Ekstrom about the Vikings, who have been given all sorts of new life thanks to Joshua Dobbs. So we got plenty of things to get into still to come today. Right now, we've been discussing jobs that people get and realize this ain't all it was cracked up to be. My sister Bev in Baltimore, Maryland, is an ER nurse. She's a wonderful woman. My sister, technically my sister-in-law, my brother Jim's wife, but she's been a part of the family for over 40 years. One of my favorite people on the planet, and an ER nurse. And you could do a lot worse than having her looking after you if you find yourself in an ER. And one of the first conversations I ever had with her, I said, what's the weirdest part about being an ER nurse? And she said, it's the realization that people will put anything into their body they can get their hands on. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, Baltimore. Oh, my God, Stevie. Oh, my God, that Baltimore accent. Oh, boy, it grinds my teeth. But she explained there's no shortage of things that people of all ages will come into the ER and go, I put a magnet in my nose and I can't get it out. I mean, it's literally anything any hole in your body. And I'm not just talking about, dirty, naughty parts. People will put anything up in there. And the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission has a database of things that people get stuck in their bodies and go to the ER for. So we'll start easy. Let's talk about the ears, okay?
All right.
I mean, every one of us at some point has put a Q-tip in there and thought to yourself, what if I pushed it so hard it didn't come out? Right. Maybe you've thought that. I don't know. Well, that happens sometimes. People will cram a Q-tip so hard that they actually can break off the tip trying to get it out, that's hard to imagine to me. I would think you'd have to be a fall. Cufflinks. These are things that have been removed from the ear canal. Cufflink.
Sounds like a wild romp in the sack. And then my cufflinks ended up in her ears. How's that happen?
A Battleship game piece.
Well, that's just curiosity, isn't it?
I can see that.
I would hope that's one of the little pieces you put into the battleship, like the little little depth charge thing, the miss or hit, as opposed to a battleship. I mean, God forbid it's the aircraft carrier, right? Maybe the little
sub,
the little PT Cruiser would get whatever you call that would get in there. A pencil eraser, a push pin. How about this? A lollipop.
Oh, yeah.
Into the ear canal. Maybe the stick, not the lollipop itself, but just the little stick, maybe?
Trying to get out a little earwax, maybe, or something like that. I don't know.
The nose is better because there's 2 holes right there. Just it's so hard to keep things out of your nose, isn't it? Gum wrapper, magnet, as I mentioned, rice. Someone had rice up the nose.
Snorting some rice.
Now, I have on occasion, on more than one occasion, while eating macaroni and cheese. This is really bizarre. I have coughed and breathed and inhaled a piece of macaroni, and it's come out through my nose.
Oh yeah, I've done that for sure.
Really?
Oh yeah.
It's all connected. Yeah, the tunnels.
It's called literally going up the wrong tube as opposed to down the wrong tube. Yeah. And I have blown my nose I do this whole thing, and then the macaroni piece comes out, and then boy, it burns for a while.
Do you reheat it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Beer.
I do.
I roll it in between my thumb and forefinger for like an hour,
It's my body. It's my stuff. I'll eat it again.
Wow. I like that. Also in the nose, gummy worms.
Yeah.
Jewelry. I guess if a clown shows up on Halloween and scares you, then, as we talked about, maybe you think, I've got to hide the family jewels up the nose.
Right up the nose. Kids, there's a story years ago that they found a jelly bean that had been up a kid's nose for like 5 years.
Yeah,
something you want to be eating that doesn't break down in your body. But, that had been up there for like 5 years.
Augie rammed a big blue marble up his nose. We had to take him in to have it removed. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, Connell swallowed a Steely, a little marble, a Steely one when he was a very little kid. And, there was a little set of them that someone gave us, and we knew it was the kids are too small for things like this because they'll eat them.
Yeah.
And it was just sitting on a countertop in a little package, and he opened it and sure enough put one in his mouth because we noticed there's 10 of them, and one of the medium-sized ones was missing. Called the pediatrician. We're like, oh my God. And the guy goes, well, it'll pass. I mean, he couldn't be bothered.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice round steel ball. It was.
And then that led us to, of course, then having to go through the diapers for the next day.
We didn't have to.
Well, we chose to. We wanted to make sure. And sure enough, it passed right through. There you go.
Nice. Here's a glove.
Also in a nose. Yes, of course. Winter gloves, in fact. It made, and then they were burned. Up the nose, also an LED light.
Oh, well, that'd
be kind of cool in the dark.
Yeah, I've done that before. Those glow sticks. You stick them up your nose, and then your whole sinus cavity glows. Mm-hmm. It's fun, but you want to keep.
I gotta try that.
Yeah, for sure.
These are all real things in emergency rooms, and then people have ingested in the stomach, literally a steak knife.
What?
Someone swallowed a steak knife.
I've devoured a steak pretty, voraciously, but never the knife with it. Ouch!
I like this, a small flashlight. They had to put the word "small" in front of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was one of those mag lights, the big black things you get. A glue stick. Oh boy!
All right,
that's gonna. I mean, that's just a. They say like. There's certain things that can just clog your system. I mean, a glue stick itself, just not just glue, but in stick form. Coins, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Cigarettes. Wow, that's a weird one.
Okay.
A key, a house key. I guess that's one way. I think people may ingest things thinking like, I'll say I lost it, and then I'll just fish it out after a couple days.
Or in the heat of an argument, maybe. It's like, you're never getting back into this place, gulp.
A crime of passion. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, I think we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't discuss things that people put, a lot of times people will insert something in through the outdoor, as they would say, in Led Zeppelin euphemisms.
That is the fun stuff.
In the butt.
And in fact, this comes back to my sister-in-law, Bev, who told me that this is a common occurrence. People they're playing around with their bodies and say, I wonder if this would fit up there.
My buttocks?
Yeah.
And she told me about a man who came in with a light bulb.
Oh, that's...
And it had not broken, but he was terrified that it would, of course.
How do you because I would think it would snap on the insertion.
Well,
maybe I'm just giving my butthole too much credit, but
no, it's an image that has stayed with me for near 40 years, and it's disturbing, and it's weird, but I think of it 4 times a day.
They always claim it was an accident too. Whatever goes up there.
I love that. I slipped and fell in the garden on a bottle or whatever, this old Coke bottle, and it just penetrated perfectly through the fabric of my
there are some you can obviously like obviously sex toys and erotic beads and things that are designed obviously for that, but when you walk in there and there's a vegetable peeler which is on the list.
What?
Ouch. You didn't fall in your kitchen. Okay?
That's like Ed Gein stuff, where he was just shoving pins in his scrotum. You're trying to hurt yourself with a vegetable peeler.
I just think you were holding a cucumber and thinking, I don't like the skin on this cucumber. Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I got an idea. Candles. Ice cream cone. That had to be it. You'd have to freeze that.
Yeah.
On a hot day. Makes sense.
It sounds, just on first contact, doesn't it sound kind of like it might be fun a little bit?
Cell phone charger is on the list.
What?
Wow.
Huh.
There was a kid that we did a story years ago that had one in the wiener. He had gotten the entire cord. The entire cord. Remember that? I think we did that. He got the entire thing up there, and they had to dig that out of his
every guy is squirming.
That's just there's way too many nerve endings.
Let's find more things to make boys squirm.
Yeah, I see one here up the wazoo. That's a ceiling fan chain. Is that like beginner anal beads?
Yeah,
I guess.
They're going with
really
that.
sure.
Nice.
A poor man's anal beads.
Zep suggested if you want to add to this conversation, feel free to call in, change your name and your voice. 651-989-ROCK is that number if you want to take him up on that offer. This is again this whole thing started with us talking about jobs that look really great, and then you get in there. So imagine you're like I want to go into the medical field. I want to help people out. I want to be someone they can rely on, and then this.
All right. What guy in Minnesota? Did you see at the bottom of the list there? Up the wazoo, a fishing pole.
Oh, my God.
Fishing pole. Well, I know it can be a slow day out on the water. You get a little bored.
That to me does sound like A, ice fishing, B, way too much schnapps. That could be a legit accident.
Oh, yeah. That might even be a dare.
That might be. Candace, do we have a caller?
Yes, Vicky from St. Michael.
Vicky, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you got for us, Vic?
Well, I was an X-ray tech in training, and gentleman had a large flashlight up his rectum.
Wow. A large one.
It was like a long
it's not funny, Brian.
Flashlight, but the string was on the wrong end. He had that end up inside of him.
Oh.
And that was back in the day, if you remember the Bud Light commercials, where they said, I said a Bud Light, not a butt light.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So as an X-ray technician, I imagine this was not the only time you saw something like this.
It was not, no.
Yeah. People are funny that way.
Did anyone ever just come in and say, I meant to do it? Hey, I was just curious, and the Barbie went up, didn't come out?
Yeah, there's a lot of surgery involved with those people.
Wow. Yikes.
Repeat offenders?
Yes, gentleman that was in prison put a lot of things up his penis, like orange peels and different sorts of things.
Okay. All right. Okay, Vicky, thanks. You've really cast a light on this.
Keep it smelling fresh, I guess, with the orange.
I guess that's what it is. Man, that's the information we were looking for. Thanks for the call.
You're welcome. Bye.
Orange peel. Great.
How?
Day.
Even
All right.
the citrus would sting.
All right, before we are going to give away some tickets here in a few minutes, but we do have time for another call, Candace. Who have we got?
Kim from Gaylord.
Kim, good morning.
Morning. When my older son was 4 years old, he somehow got a wheel off of his Hot Wheels and shoved it way up there. I mean, I couldn't even see it. Up his nose, and we didn't end up at the ER. We ended up at the pediatrician's office.
Right.
And they got him to blow it out. I mean, I couldn't get him to blow it out, but they did. They got him to blow it all the way out, and it was a very interesting little thing. And he did learn the lesson and never got another one up there.
All right, good.
Popped a wheelie.
Learning moment.
No kidding.
Popped a wheelie.
I wonder which Hot Wheel it was. I was always a fan of the Splitting Image myself.
No, that's a good one.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, that'll happen, man. Hold on. I'm this just in. Candace, is there another caller?
Well, yes, Steve, there is. Frank from Minneapolis.
Frank, good morning.
Hey, I'm a pediatrician. I have a whole collection of stuff I've pulled out of kids' ears and nostrils.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. My favorite still, though, is when I pull something out of an ear, and the parent is sitting there, and they don't know that there was something there. So they think it's like me doing some magic trick or something, you know?
Sleight of hand.
No, I didn't put it in there. Your kid put it in there.
Wow.
So my favorite is still the tooth. I pulled a tooth out of a kid's ear.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, my gosh.
Holy smokes.
The look on the parent's face is like, how did that get in there? And I'm like, there's only one way that it gets in, you know?
Hey,
You're
have
a
you
bad
ever
parent.
have you ever had a kid come in just for a routine checkup and you looked in the ear and they saw something, but the kid hadn't even mentioned it or there was no pain or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like half of them.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
That's so funny. Yeah, my daughter has never had an object in her ear, but she had, on consecutive years, ear infections that she hadn't mentioned. And then we just happened to take her in for the yearly checkup, and the doctor's like, is that ear hurt? And she's like, yep. And we're like, it does? We had no idea. Go figure.
Oh, yeah.
Man, well, as I will say to any pediatrician, well, you're doing the Lord's work, brother. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. Hey, you guys, you can meet up with KQRS as we rock the pantry. That's this coming Monday, November 13th from 5 to 7 at New Bohemia in Golden Valley. If you bring a grocery bag of non-perishable food or other necessities, you can have a beer, maybe an order of fries on us. Plus, you'll have chances to win tickets to Iron Maiden next October, sweet tickets for the Eagles November 18th, and tickets to Minnesota Wild's Grateful Dead night versus the St. Louis Blues on November 28th. Holy smokes, that's some pretty good stuff. Rock the Pantry will benefit Prism's Marketplace Food Shelf in Golden Valley. That's this Monday, the 13th, from 5 to 7 at New Bohemia in Golden Valley.
Woo!
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
The Saints are in town, and now we're going to discuss that with Sam Ekstrom, host and Vikings insider for the podcast network Locked On Minnesota. You can hear Sam on the Ron Johnson Show, the Minnesota Football Party, and the Vikings postcast after each game. Sam, the good book says, and unto us a Savior is born. And here comes Josh Dobbs. Of all of the mania of what we all watched on Sunday, the thing that blows me away the most, Josh Dobbs on Sunday became the first player in NFL history to score at least 3 touchdowns in back-to-back games for 2 different teams. How, can you even get your arms around how insane it is what he pulled off on Sunday?
No, it was wild. And the way it started, safety, fumble, and then another fumble.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked absolutely bleak. I mean, if you were following my Twitter feed at that time, people were ready to tank. People wanted to lose the rest of their game.
Sure.
They wanted to turn the TV off. I'm sure some people did turn the TV off, but credit the Vikings defense for keeping them within shouting distance, and then Dobbs seemed to kind of get comfortable. And I love the myth that's developed here of Kevin O'Connell walking him through the plays in real time in his headset, and then Dobbs digesting it and executing it, and then getting out of some ridiculous, pickles with his legs.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable what we saw. It was very entertaining football.
Yeah, guilty as charged on that first point you made, because I spent last week saying Dobbs is a gamer, and I was excited by the signing, the safety and the fumble. I texted Zepp and wrote, okay, forget everything I said about Dobbs. I was bailing on my own confidence in the man, but and now, of course, I'm back on where I was a week ago, which is, no, the guy's really good, trust me. But nobody could have imagined him coming in and doing just that. And while I got you here, so I believe Jaren Hall had all of 11 plays or something like that. But I got to say, those 11 plays, he looked pretty good too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. First drive, I believe, was a 3-and-out. Second drive, 8 plays, drives the field all the way to the 1-yard line. And, mobility, you in trouble. And I guess you worry about that a little bit with Dobbs, but Hall put his head down, tried to get to the end zone, got hit. And it is a shame because he seemed to have really good command of the offense on that drive. He was surveying the field at the line of scrimmage and making audibles, and he seemed to understand the offense really well. And he made a couple good throws. He had a great one to Madison down the sideline. So now you wonder, does he get another chance at some point? Or does Dobbs now have the right to kind of play this thing out until something goes wrong?
Right.
I tend to think this is Dobbs' team now. And I would guess Hall is not available this week with that concussion anyway.
Right.
So
exactly.
you give it to Dobbs this week and see what happens. But, yeah, Jaren Hall may have had all of 11 plays to have his shot and then watch Josh Dobbs waltz in with no practice and do what he did.
So, and again, we'll talk about that. Or football fans will talk about that forever. Anytime a quarterback shows up, without any moment to prepare, it's going to be, well, can he do what Dobbs did? What will you expect from Dobbs now that he has had all of 5 days with the team? He is throwing balls to his receivers now. That's a nice new trick. Learning the playbook. I mean, have you heard anything from Vikings world, good, bad, or indifferent, about what they're seeing from him now that he actually is getting to know the plays?
Yeah, I mean, he's learning the players' names too, Steve. That's also helpful
Yeah, it does.
To know who you're playing with. Yeah, I mean, the thing on Dobbs is that when he hears something once, he learns it. Remember, he's a rocket scientist. He studied, aeronautics or astronomics, whatever the word is, in school. So he's a smart kid, and I guess he's digesting it very quickly. But let's also remember, too, that Kirk Cousins is one of the most diligent quarterbacks in the NFL, and he needed a full summer to feel semi-comfortable in this offense, and he still struggled early last season. So there are so many levels that you can go to in this offensive scheme, and I think they still have to keep it somewhat rudimentary for a new quarterback like Dobbs. So I still don't think the full menu is on the table for him. I think it's got to be somewhat pared down, and this is where the mobility helps. And you see this a lot with young quarterbacks just coming into the league. If they have mobility, they can wriggle out of bad situations. They can make it right. They can turn a 3rd and 10 into a first down with their legs. Even if they don't know the play, they can still kind of run around in the pocket. And we saw that from Dobbs in that game. I guess my worry would be that he won't be able to run at such an insane clip going forward, and he will be forced to use his arm and use his playbook knowledge, and then that kind of regress.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's they're very complimentary on Dobbs so far this week.
Well, let's take it one step further then. For those of us who haven't watched one damn play of the Saints this season, do a little scouting report on that Saints defense for us. What is Dobbs up against?
It's a good pass defense. This is a good secondary. They've got a cornerback named Paulson Adebo who created 3 turnovers last week, who's playing some of his best football. So that's a name that you want to watch out for. Offense, I think the Saints are boring, vanilla, and gettable. Like, I watched every play of that Saints-Bears game back, and Derek Carr had one throw that he attempted over 14 yards. I mean, he's a first-read quarterback. He's going to
plunker.
Get it. Yeah, quick passes, 3-step drops, and they just try to, matriculate the ball down the field, not make mistakes. But I don't think they're very explosive on offense. I think that Dobbs is up against a good secondary, but if the Vikings can put 21, 24 points on the board, I think they can absolutely win this game.
All right. I like it. And, and you get just back to the Jaren Hall thing real quick. What he has done, if he doesn't come back in, if we don't find ourselves in a quarterback controversy here after Dobbs' second game, he's really risen his stock for other teams, maybe making it to another team or another contract offer. That, in other words, he showed he can play a little bit, albeit one drive. He's got some, because I have some hardcore Viking buddy fans that are wanting to see more of Jaren Hall. But obviously Dobbs gets the shot here, and we're excited to see what he can do this Sunday. Now we see that Justin Jefferson has been practicing this week. We don't expect him to play, or what are you hearing there?
Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus, that he's going to take at least 1 week to practice before they activate him to the active roster. They open up a 3-week practice window where he's permitted to practice, but they don't need to put him on the main roster. And Adam Schefter's been on this since last week, saying that they're not going to play him. And, when Schefter says it, I treat it as gospel usually. So I'm going to take their word at it. The Vikings have always towed a very cautious line. Talking about Jefferson, they want to do right by him. They know that he's going to have a long career here. And they want to have him, in December when when the games magnify, and they want to make sure he's fully healthy, because hamstrings are tricky, guys. I'm sure we talked about this several weeks ago, that you can seem right, you can jog around and run around, and it might seem fine. But then once you have to turn on the afterburners and go 100%, that's when that thing gets really tested. And they want to make sure when he does flip that switch that he's 100%, he's not going to aggravate anything.
Sam Ekstrom is with us on the KQ Morning Show. Sam, you mentioned the Vikings defense did a good job. Week to week, are you still seeing improvement? Are you still noticing things? And did you see something this past weekend that gave you further confidence that they're still tightening the screws on that side of the ball?
Yeah, that secondary puts itself in positions to make plays all the time. I mean, how many times a game are they having either interceptions or balls that float through their hands, almost interceptions, because their defensive backs are in the right position? We're seeing that so much more. And I keep saying this about the defense, that there aren't that many stars, but everyone seems to carry their weight. You aren't cringing at one guy over and over again saying, oh, there's the weak link right there. Your linebackers are playing much, much more freely and much more physically than last year. I remember last year, even Eric Kendricks was kind of a problem at times. Jordan Hicks wasn't playing very well in that defense last year. And suddenly the linebackers are playing really well. The secondary is playing really well. And even without Marcus Davenport, that front four is getting some help from DJ Wanham, and they're playing well. So it's really the ultimate team effort on defense. I don't think there's a lot of guys that have, household names, but it's working. And they're going on about a 5-game stretch now where you could say they are maybe a top 15 defense in the league. This is a great coaching job by Brian Flores.
And to that point, I think you're right. The defensive standout this year is Flores. I mean, he's taken this team of not superstars, figured out how to best use them. His defenses are exciting to watch. I mean, Heineke did get a few yards on him last week, but you win the game and you win the battle, and you look damn good doing it. It's a fun defense, and they'll stack up pretty well against the Saints this weekend, don't you think?
Yeah, I think they will. Derek Carr is another quarterback that's a little bit of a statue. He's not going to run around too much, and that might be a good quarterback to blitz a lot. Again, Brian Flores, it felt like he had kind of a light week last week blitzing Heineke. Well, he still blitzed him 50% of the time when you look at the numbers. I mean, he's gonna bring pressure. That's just his thing. And Derek Carr, again, he is a smart quarterback, so he probably knows where to go if you try to pressure him too much. So you got to be a little mindful of that. But I think, again, this is one of those games where you don't need to blow the doors off the team offensively. You just got to score in the 20s, and you're going to have a chance. Because this Saints team, if you look at their game by game, really the only time they put up a big number was against New England, and New England's been really bad this year. And the Saints had like 5 takeaways against the Bears, and they still had to sweat it out at the end because they weren't very opportunistic. So Vegas does not like the Vikings in this game, you guys. 2.5-point underdogs at home. Obviously, they're not on the Dobbs bandwagon. They don't have Dobbs fever. They're not very sentimental in Vegas. But I think taking the Vikings plus 2.5 feels like a pretty good wager to me.
It sounds great to me. Hey, I'm new in town, Sam, as you know. Have the Saints ever played here in a game that ever had any significant, moments or endings? Is that something something rings a bell?
Yeah, but I'd have to rack my brains on that one, Steve. I don't know.
Google it.
Yeah, I mean,
71. I think there was a legendary game.
Okay, yeah, something does. Yeah, it's a very vague memory of going. I think those two teams had a moment once. I don't know, 5-6 years ago, kind of crazy. All right, so before I ask for your pick on this game, I will give you full props. You did call a safety last week in your prediction. Well played, sir.
I also said 4 total turnovers in the game, and I believe there were 4 total turnovers in the game. So my score was way off.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I'm happy to lob you those softballs, brother. So let's have it then. Saints Vikings. Give us your rundown. What do you think we're going to see? What's the story?
23-20 Vikings. A walk-off field goal on a drive engineered by Dobbs. I think Dobbs runs for a touchdown and throws for a touchdown and throws an interception. I think a little bit of everything from Dobbs in this game, and the Vikings squeak one out.
That's beautiful. Awesome. Okay, so one last pick on Dobbs. What's he going to have for breakfast on Sunday?
Astronaut food. I don't know.
Yeah, Tang-fueled football glory. Sam, it's always a pleasure, and I can't wait to hear you gloat about how perfect that pick was a week from today. Enjoy the game, brother.
Talk to you then.
You got it. See ya. I like that. Game-winning field goal on a drive engineered by Dobbs. He'll throw for 2, run for 1, and have a pick.
All right.
Man.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we will absolutely take it. Hey, the 92KQRS kickback jackpot is at $10,000. You can meet up with Woody and Bud Light at the Muddy Cow in Shakopee. Shakopee. How do you say it?
You did?
Yeah, you got it. You nailed it. 3 in a row.
So during the first half of Sunday's game, and sign up for the kickback jackpot. If the first play of the second half is a kickoff return for a touchdown by either team, you could win $10,000. If not, we're going to roll the prize money over to the next game and add another $1,000 to the pot. Complete contest rules at 92KQRS.com. Get to the Muddy Cow in the first half of the game and sign up.
Hot damn. All right, I love this guy. He's coming to town. We're going to be talking with him at 9 o'clock. I mean, it's Rory Scovel, right? Is that it? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Are we out there?
That's it.
The guy you love so much?
Well, I know, right? It's just one of those guys when you see he's on, you stop and you watch. But, I don't follow him on Facebook. I don't stalk him. I'm excited that we're speaking with him here at 9 o'clock. Rory Scovel doing a special taping event in Minneapolis this Saturday. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Thursday, November the 9th. That was ZZ Top with Legs. We were talking earlier in the show about jobs we all have. Jobs we thought would be fun and we thought would be easy. And when I hear ZZ Top, I'm reminded that I went on tour with ZZ Top once and they fired my band. Right off the tour. They just, get the hell out of here, you bunch of punks. And we earned it, and we deserved it, and we got a ton of press out of it. So it was great. And it's one of those moments you never really expect. Hey, I love ZZ Top. And then they fired us.
I heard that during a documentary on ZZ Top, not that little band out of Texas one that came out not too long ago, great documentary, but something earlier, those guys were talking about pranking opening bands that would come out with them. They would get onto the sound, up to the sound stage or whatever that's called, and turn their volume down or mess with the buttons and stuff like that. They were sort of pranksters or a little chippy with any other band that wanted to get up there and make some music before them, maybe.
No pranks with us. They just fired our asses. So that was, I needed a break. I was thrilled about it. Hey, joining us on the KQ Morning Show right now, Rory Scovel's on the phone, taping a comedy appearance tomorrow night at the Goodale Theater at the Cowell Center. Rory, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you very much. We were talking earlier on the show about jobs we had that we thought were going to be really cool, and then they turned out to suck. Anything come to mind for you in your life?
You know, right out of high school, I worked at Roadway, just loading the back of like 18-wheelers and unpacking the back of 18-wheelers.
Right.
And I thought it was going to be pretty great because it paid pretty well. And I was like, it's easy. You just get out in there and get to drive a forklift around. And it was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. All of the men I worked with hated me because I was just like, getting in the way. And I honestly didn't really know what I was doing anyways. But yeah, I thought that was going to be a lot of fun, and it was not at all.
That's funny. Right out of high school, I got hired by a nursery to go dig holes and plant trees, and it was the hardest I ever worked, and I got fired for not being able to keep up with all those old men I was working with. I was like, you guys
you're
are
out there thinking you're doing something good for the environment, and then you get fired.
I know. It's the first time I really understood old man strength. They were just so angry they couldn't stop digging holes fast enough. So, Rory, you're in Minneapolis tomorrow night taping what is
Saturday.
I'm sorry, next Saturday, the 11th. I'm getting ahead of myself. Saturday, not tomorrow, Saturday. The Last Tour, this is called? What's going on with that?
It's kind of a play on, my last special, it was called Rory Scovel Tries Stand-Up for the First Time, and so I thought this made sense that the very next tour I would do would be something that had a vibe of retirement.
Okay. All right. So, all right, I dig it. So the special taping event, any particular reason you chose Minneapolis, or did it just make sense with the schedule?
No, it was every time I've played Minneapolis, a few times now in my career, I've always loved it. Other comics always rave about it, and Acme Comedy Club is one of the best clubs in the country, and the audience has always come out. They're always great. They're so supportive, and I think Minneapolis was maybe one of the first stops I put on, like, getting back into shows at the end of COVID, and this act wasn't fully formed together. I was just kind of remembering how to do stand-up, and I remember just loving the audience and being reminded, like, oh yeah, Minneapolis is great, and like these people come out and they're into the show, and my brain was like, don't put Minneapolis on the tour, like hold off. This was like a year ago. My brain was like, hold off, don't put it on the tour. You might want to save it for the special. And then we were trying to pick out where to shoot the special. And I was like, I think I got to go with my initial instinct. Like Minneapolis was on my brain. I should see it through and do it there. So that's kind of why, because the audiences are awesome.
Yeah, that checks out. Perfectly fine answer right there. You are, if I'm not mistaken, from Greenville, South Carolina.
That's right. Yeah.
I was just there earlier this year for the first time in over 20 years, and that town is kind of banging these days, man. Talk about a revitalization.
Yeah, it's a whole new, especially the downtown, but even other parts of it, but downtown especially, like it's a whole new city. I tell so many people that are there, like how interesting downtown is with restaurants and shops, and there's so much culture down there, and people go down there now socially. I tell them, like, when I was a kid, there was nothing down there. There was no reason to ever go to downtown for anything. There wasn't a store. There was even a coffee shop you might want to wander into. So, I love it. I think it's amazing.
Well, for anyone from that area listening, I don't mind saying Greenville's amazing, and Spartanburg, well, it's still Spartanburg. So, did you start doing stand-up down in that area, or did you get out of town before you jumped up in front of strangers with a mic?
I did. So I went to college in Spartanburg, and my very first, technically show that I did, I went and did an open mic poetry night in Spartanburg, South Carolina, in December of, looking back, it's so crazy, but December of 2003, I got on stage, and it was an open mic poetry night, and I said, can I tell jokes instead of poems? And no one cared at all. They almost were weirded out that I even asked a question what the rules were at a poetry night in South Carolina. But yeah, I just got up and told jokes, and that's kind of where it started.
Okay, so really not a master plan then. You're not going to tell us the story one day of how a success was assured from the start.
I wish I would have known it. That would have been less anxiety the past 20 years or whatever. But no, just me getting on stage, messing around, and then being like, you know what? I think I could turn this into a job.
Wow. Yeah. So obviously it went well enough where you were. I mean, a lot of people tell that story about getting up for the first time, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So it was at least a little to the left of nightmare.
Yeah, it was fun. It worked. It was good. And I was like, oh, this is great. I don't really know what I'm doing anyway. So I moved to D.C. to start doing it more frequently. My sister lived there, and I was like, I can crash on her couch, and I'll have someone kind of, a little bit of a support system in place. And so I moved up there and started doing open mics and that, and it just was, I would say for a while it wasn't working, and I wasn't doing great. And my sister was like, why don't you just do it for 6 months and then quit if it's not working? And then it started working because I stopped thinking about what I was doing and when I was trying to do it and how long do I do this before I give up and go do something else. And then something clicked, and it just started to become really fun.
That's great. Rory Scovel's with us on the KQ Morning Show. Does your acting career kind of follow the same thing? Did you ever see yourself getting in front of a camera in that regard?
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do initially. I just always watched movies. I guess, this is maybe the dream that any kid that wants to get into acting has. You see a movie, and you're like, oh, man, I think I want to be in a movie. I want to do something like that. It looks fun. And so ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to do it. And then after I graduated college, I was like, oh, I don't really know how you even do that. And I think that's why discovering stand-up was such a relief, because I was like, oh, this is something I can do. I understand it, and it doesn't require this intense knowledge. You just go up and you learn as you go. And then luckily that just led to casting people, giving me chances in commercials and giving me chances in TV shows, and now some movies and still TV shows. So it kind of just fell into place. But I liked that I was doing stand-up instead of focusing on acting, because I don't know that I would have gotten where I am now. I think the stand-up really helped me mature into knowing that I'm in a creative art business, and you have to do more than just perform and learn all the ins and outs of it. So, yeah, I'm fortunate.
Rory, since you and Steve brought it up, the acting career, I know you're all in with this tour right now, and you're taping Saturday in Minneapolis. That's exciting. But Marie and I are watching Physical on Apple TV Plus, and I know we're into the third series. I think we're lagging. It might have come out a little bit earlier this year. Is there going to be a fourth season of Physical? Dark comedy, you guys. Highly recommend it. Fourth season, yes or no? Do you think?
There's no fourth season. This is going to be... this is going to be it. And I want to apologize in advance for how often you've had to see my naked butt. Because I know it's a lot.
Great character. Rose Byrne is awesome. Paul Sparks has a great character. Zoe Deschanel is in it as well.
I will say getting to three seasons of that show is incredible. That came up right during the pandemic. Stand-up went away. I didn't have a job like all of us, confused in the new world, wondering what are we going to do? What is jobs? What is money? And then that job came out of nowhere, and I couldn't believe that someone actually cast me in this role to play Rose Byrne's husband. So, Physical will hold a special place in my heart forever. I mean, that pulled my family back together in the pandemic in terms of, financial concern. So, I'm very lucky in that regard.
My wife and I have also watched the show. That Rose Byrne, kind of talented, huh?
Oh, my gosh. I got to say, I tell these people all the time, I don't know other actors that are so good at comedy and then so good at drama. You know a bunch that are decent at both or really good at one, but she can play both ends of the spectrum so effortlessly, and she's so good at it. And you don't really see that a lot.
No, it's absolutely fantastic. Rory Scovel's with us tomorrow. I keep saying tomorrow. In my mind, it's Friday. Tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow's Friday, but the day after that is Saturday, and Saturday night at the Goodale Theater at the Cowell Center, Rory Scovel will be performing and taping a special, The Last Tour.
That's right, yeah. I think we just opened up a few more tickets on the early show, and I think the late show's about to sell out. So we're moving along. I'm feeling pretty good about the energy that the Minneapolis crowd's going to bring.
Well, as you mentioned, it is a great comedy town. You don't come up with special shtick for each town you go to, do you?
No, I mean, sometimes if I'm, obviously for this, I wouldn't just because it's a special taping. But when I do go to a town, if I'm there and, for a couple nights doing shows at a club or, getting food or becoming a part of the city or notice things that are fun things to go up and talk about that are, I guess, very specific to the city, I personally always love doing that because it gets a crowd very energized early on, and I think crowds really like it because it's so, homegrown and specific to them. But that would be the only thing I change. Overall, the act, I just keep it the same no matter what.
I gotcha. So South Carolina or Clemson, who you cheering for?
I never cared at all growing up, but I did go to USC Spartanburg, a branch school of University of South Carolina. So I think I got to go South Carolina. Yeah. I mean, Clemson's had some fun. They became a really amazing team.
Yeah, that's really true. Did you actually play soccer there? Did I read that?
I did. I played soccer there. I played soccer from 5 until I graduated, until I was 23. And,
wow.
Yeah, I played it in school.
You still play like in an old man league and try to remember the glory days, or you
give
it up
entirely? It's funny you say that because I was just talking about it yesterday. I do sometimes still get out and play, and at 43, while I still can't do what I used to be able to do, I will say and I'm arrogant about it, I am still very good at soccer.
I like it.
I'll be very egotistical about.
Yeah.
I am very good at it.
I dig it, man. I was still playing in my early 40s. I played short field, like what you would call indoor soccer, but in an outdoor league up in Northridge. And I was like, I think I'm ready to get back on a full field. I did one day of 11 on 11, and I was like, oh my God, I've made the worst mistake of my life.
I know. Our brains are like, why did you do this?
Yeah, absolutely terrible. All right. Well, hey, man, we wish you all the best Saturday night. Before I cut you loose, first concert you ever saw, what was it?
First concert was with my sister and all her friends and all of my female older family members, New Kids on the Block at Furman University.
Yeah.
Oh, man. New Kids at Furman. Man, talk about worlds colliding. That's fantastic. Well, I guess as long as it wasn't at Bob Jones, it wasn't so much of a world's collide.
Well, it would never happen. It never happened at Bob Jones.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right. Hey, man, it's a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks for calling in.
I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
See ya.
Yeah. If you're on the fence, if you want to go see Rory this weekend or not, or if you're just up for a bunch of good laughs, he had a Netflix special, and I'm forgetting the name of it. I should have Googled it, but I was actually listening to the interview back in 2017. Netflix original, Rory Scovel. Track it down. Enjoy it. You're welcome.
It's called Try Stand Up for the First Time. That's what he was talking about. Yeah.
There you go.
It's great.
Right.
It is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Thursday, November the 9th. Candace, what's that look on your face?
I forgot to
hit the button.
Are you hurt?
I forgot to hit the button. You forgot to pull the ripcord. You forgot to
wipe.
Wow. Thanks, Candace. Oh, man.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Stop it. I'm not crazy. I'm not.
No one said you were crazy. We're texting over here with you not in the thread.
What's the emoji for super crazy, you guys? No, I'm kidding. Hey, well, since we're stumbling into this segment, I got to give a shout out to Joe Volk. I assume you're joshing us here, but this is a great one. A comedy writer after Tony Lee's heart, I think, here. Our KQ92 Facebook post this morning, a job that you took that you thought was going to be all that didn't turn out to be all that. Mm-hmm. Joe writes for us here this morning, I spent some time traveling back and forth between San Diego and Hawaii, working as an oil boy for the Coppertone Girls. The airplane food...
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oil boy
for the Coppertone Girls.
Yeah, it sounds like a great job, doesn't it?
I would think.
Right. Turns out, Joe writes, that the airplane food was always nasty. The sand would stick everywhere due to the oil dripping. It also rained once, and he couldn't do his job because the models started wrestling in the beach sand. How frustrating, right?
Oh, you poor kid.
2 of them lost their tops. They had to share the shower, so it couldn't make it to the next location. There was a dead fish when they were shooting. It stunk. There were flies around it. 2 years, only 1 raise. Barely brought him into 6 figures. He's a bigger guy. He's a bigger guy, and one time he could barely work the pedals on the tiny Porsche rental car. So glad to be back in blue-collar work. Joe Volk, thanks for the chuckle this morning, buddy.
Right,
we
Joe.
appreciate it.
The original version of that post starts, "Dear Penthouse Forum, I never thought a thing like this could happen to a guy like me."
Needless to say.
Yeah, that's that's pretty great. Yesterday on the show, if you were listening, we spoke to a guy from Blighty. He's an English chap, and he's running an auction house, and they have a bunch of movie and rock memorabilia going up for sale this weekend. And I just saw another auction that's happening. Check this out. This is a different auction that's going up Saturday in Southwest England. They are auctioning off a first-class dinner menu, an actual first-class dinner menu from the Titanic.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's only a few known to be in existence, and one of them's going up for auction. And there's a photo of it in this article I just saw.
Ooh.
Oysters, consomme Renaissance, crème d'asperges. They're offering salmon, hollandaise whitebait, tornadoes of beef a la Victoria, squab a la Godard, spring lamb mint sauce, roast chicken bread sauce, sirloin of beef with horseradish, green peas, puree parsnips, boiled rice, I should say, mallard duck. With port wine sauce, salad, Victoria pudding, apricots bourdalogne, petit mocha, and French ice cream. Yes, that's what they were serving in 1912 on a boat. Of course the boat sank.
I wonder what they were serving in steerage. What was that menu like down there? Was
shoes. They had shoes and for the little kids, they had shoelaces.
Oh, that's nice. A little something to suck on.
If you're in steerage, turn your shoes over to the chef now if you want to eat between here and New York City. Otherwise, we assume you're here to lose weight.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That is a brutal. I mean, just because you're like, to your point, Zepp, you got people like literally under the waterline for days, locked in steerage, smelling like a stinking cattle car, and then up top, all the Victor Newmans of the world. I say that because Victor Newman from The Young and the Restless does appear in Titanic, that actor, in tuxedo, and they were just feasting. However, the menu. And it is it's the menu for the day it went down, April 11th. It's that night. Wow. That's the dinner menu. Let's see what they're expecting. They're expecting anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 to be the going price.
Yeah, well, it's, Titanic memorabilia. We've talked about it with the tragedy this year that, our endless obsession with the sinking of the Titanic.
Yeah. Let's see, a first-class menu from the ship's last lunch sold in 2012 for $120,000. And then the last time one of these final dinner first-class menus went for sale, it was $118,000, and that's in 2015. So every so often these hit the market. And if I were to go to anyone's house, it could be someone I'm very close with, a family member, a loved one, and they said, check this out, man. And they take you into their study, and then they open up a special safe, and they pull it out. It's a menu from the final dinner on the Titanic. My response would be, huh. That'd be it. Okay.
I'm out of here early today.
You remember a bunch of people died, right? Like 1,500 people drowned in the North Atlantic? Huh. Okay, cool.
I guess enough time has passed. We can, who knows? But right.
I'm not a memorabilia guy. It's just I think it's almost like you're born to care about that stuff or you're not. And I just have never been.
I had a picture. I went to a Mellencamp show, and a buddy of mine. This was way back during the Rain on the Scarecrow, 1980s. Big Mellencamp fan, farm kid, coming out of South Dakota. A buddy of mine sketched him, the beautiful sketch of the American Fool cover. There's Mellencamp, right, his mug, and he takes it to the Mellencamp show. And unbeknownst to me, there's a little meet and greet. He goes to that while I'm probably swigging some beers and gets it signed by John Mellencamp. A little personalized inscription to me. and frames it for me and gives it to me sometime after the show. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I wonder where that's at today.
Yeah, no talent.
I don't.
Some garage sale.
Probably. I don't know. How do I, so yeah, just not wired like that, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd love to have it today, but not so much that, I'm going to try and track it down.
The first time I've only asked for a couple autographs in my life, and one of them was in 1988. I saw Jimmy Page in Atlanta at a strip club. And I walked over to his table, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Page, can I get your autograph, please?" And he was hammered. He's like, sure. And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Steve." And then he looked at me and waited for me to spell it, which was nice of him, S-T-E-V-E. And then he scribbled on this, just a cocktail napkin, "Steve, rock on Jimmy Page." And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Within a couple days, I'm at work at the record store, and there's a guy who came in who's a known autograph collector back then. And he literally came up to me and goes, "I heard you got a Jimmy Page." I'm like, well, you heard who were what? How did that word gets around?
Street,
I mean, you tell I thought that was so weird. Like I had been in the 3 or 4 days since getting the autograph, drunkenly telling everyone I met, but apparently they told people too. And so anyway, he literally goes, "Man, I would give you, is it for sale?" And I was like, "It's for sale? No, what are you talking about? It's just a napkin." And then he looked at me and he goes, "Well, I have a landscaping business. I'll cut your grass for a while." And I said, "I tell you what, you cut my yard for life." And he literally goes, "Okay." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Done.
And I was and here's the deal. I was one of 3 tenants in a house we were renting. But the main tenant was my manager at the record store, and he was always angry at me for being late with the rent and being a terrible employee. And so we had some contentious moments. Not only was I his worst employee, I was renting a room in his house. And so I hooked it up so the guy would cut the grass at at his place. And so then I was off the hook for a long time. And then I moved out. And then after I left, he stopped cutting the grass. But I was like, man, I really should have kept in touch with that guy. Because a few years later, I had my own yard, and I could have held that over his head.
I'm pretty sure you would have had the opportunity once again to get Jimmy's autograph. And,
That's true.
Just one of the many, many, many times you guys just hung out casually.
I did tell him that story once, and he was like, "Wait, really?" And I said, and it was me and Robinson, my singer. And I said, "Yeah, we were at the club. We met you, and you gave us both your autograph." And he was laughing. He goes, "Oh, I don't remember that at all, of course." And we're like, "No, why would you?" And then he goes, "Well, do you still have the autograph?" I go, "God, no. I gave it to some weird guy to cut my grass." And he thought it was so funny. He thought that was the funniest thing ever. Yeah. He was just dying.
That's great.
And speaking of Jimmy Page autographs, I think I told this already, but he was in Japan once, and the promoter brought in a very, very wealthy businessman over there. This is back in the 90s, like on a Page Plant tour. And this guy had like a vault on wheels, and he opened it up and he showed Jimmy this guitar, and he says, "I have something to show you. When's the last time you saw this?" And he unzips this, metal guitar vault, and Jimmy looks at the guitar and he's like, "I don't know what that is." And the guy that goes, "This is your old guitar. You played this on the tour in 1977 or whatever the guy had been told." And Jimmy says, "I've never seen that guitar in my life." Oh. And this guy had been conned. He'd paid like a couple $100,000 or something back then for this guitar, and it had been autographed. And Jimmy goes, "That's not even my signature. It doesn't even look anything like it."
Ouch, babe.
And the guy was just crestfallen.
Yeah.
And Jimmy said, "Well, hang on," and he pulled the guitar out and he plugged it into his warm-up amp and he gave it a go and played a little bit. And he may have even, I don't want to make this up, but I'm almost confident, fairly confident he used it on stage that night for one song. And then he actually signed it, and then he handed it back to the guy.
Bravo.
Yeah, good man.
Yeah.
Good man, that James Patrick Page.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. Hey, as long as we're looking back, let's continue this. How about a history lesson?
Did you know this?
Hey, did you know this?
Okay, this is interesting.
This is interesting. What is it?
Sports and
music history.
It's November 9th, and on this day in 1861, which is forever ago, there was the first ever documented Canadian football game happened at the University of Toronto. And I don't know anything about the game other than this. The offensive players were all moving before the quarterback said hut, hut, hike. The field was longer than it needed to be. It was wider than it needed to be. And the end zones were like a half an acre each, and it just made no sense. And they also were not giving the offense enough chances to get a first down because that's how they roll up there. I'm sure it was a great game otherwise. But basically, I'm just looking for a chance to always make fun of Canadian football.
Yeah, I mean, it was Arena League football was better.
It really was. And honestly, it's all the movement before the snap. That's what does it every time. If I put on a CFL game, I mean, like the quarterback goes, 649, and then one guy gets up and runs 346, and then 2 offensive linemen change positions. Hut, hut, and then everyone runs like chickens with their heads cut off, and then they snap the ball. It makes me absolutely crazy.
Isn't the end zone like 20, 30 yards deep or something like that?
I think it's 25 yards deep.
You can run a post pattern from the 5-yard line.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Every time I see it, it's so unnatural. It just always is. It's like brushing your teeth with your left hand. It's like, no, this is kind of the same, but it's really not at all. That's Canadian football to me. As Chet Waterhouse says, if you ever get a chance, go to the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in Hamilton, the best 8 minutes you can ever spend. On this day in 1984, famously, Larry Bird of the Boston Celtics and Julius Erving of the Philadelphia 76ers literally got into a fist fight on the court. And remember the time of year, early in the season, meaningless, you would think, regular season game. Dr. J was at the end of his run, and Bird at one point had outscored him 42-6 and was running up the court saying, 42-6, Doc, 42-6, Doc, it's time to hang him up. And Dr. J just threw a wrecking ball right into Larry Bird's face. By the way, they had to be separated, benches cleared. Both Larry and the doctor were ejected, which in the 80s, to be ejected from an NBA game, I mean, you literally had to be in a fist fight. Celtics went on to win. And, I mean, Bird was right, of course. He, at that time, was far superior to Dr. J. But it's Dr. J, Larry. Come on. What's wrong with you?
He was a notorious instigator, wasn't he, Bird?
The greatest trash talker ever.
Yep, that's what just about anyone who played against him will tell you.
Yep, absolutely spectacular.
The KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.